Welcome. Let me do introductions. If I could have all of our staff actually turn on your cameras for just a second so you pop up at the top and you can wave as I do introductions. Again, my partner in crime, our Dean of Students, Christine Johnson, is joining us here tonight. From the Team 26 instructional and support faculty, and I'll just do this in the order you're in my window, Mrs. Carrie Lynch, who is our English teacher, Mr. Mark Mashricky, who teaches social studies, Mrs. Amy Destiny, a familiar face. She is the school counselor at Bolton Center School, but also takes care of our 9th and 10th graders here at the high school. Our beloved librarian, Bolton High School graduate, Mrs. McGee Klepfer. Our scientist of the group, Missy Hobel, and our mathematician, Michelino Galli, and a special guest appearance by Mr. Christopher Jones, who actually teaches all of our grades and is in charge of our CTE program. We're going to hear from him, and we might have a couple of other teachers popping in between conferences. So again, I'm going to turn it over to the gang. I've given you guys co-host permission. You should be able to share whatever you need to share. Go ahead, Missy. I think you're going to push the buttons. And again, we'll let them go through their presentation, and then I'll stick around and answer any additional questions. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right, sorry, you guys can see that, right? Okay. Welcome, Team 25, or sorry, Team 26. Oof, I knew I would slip up once, but to do it right away, yikes. So this just is a little bit of us and our Bitmojis to get you a little bit more familiar with who we are and what we do. So welcome. We want to go over a little bit from the beginning and freshman orientation, and then go through what Team 26 has to offer for classes, for all sorts of what your high school career is going to start as. So we offered this year for the first time, and it seems to have gone really well and been well received by students as well. We did a freshman orientation about a couple days before school started. We had freshmen come in. We had a great turnout this year, so hopefully for Team 26, it will be the same. And it was a great opportunity for freshmen to see the school, to walk around, to meet upperclassmen. We had guided tours from our upperclassmen who showed students not just where their classes are, but where some interesting things are in the building as well. We went through locker assignments. We gave students their Chromebooks so they could get more familiar with them before the first day of school. We handed out school supplies. We did some team building activities so people could see who was who. It was great because we not only had those of you that went through center school, but we had a few this year that had just moved to Bolton or come from other schools, and it was great that they got to meet people and have familiar faces. The first day of school, we had a few students who said, oh yeah, I met you at freshman orientation, and had a friendly face to sit with or be in a class with. So it was a great opportunity for everyone. And then we had a Bigs and Littles cookout at the end, which is another opportunity for the kids to all talk to each other, but also to meet upperclassmen and hear somewhat about what's happening at BHS, and to have not just a familiar freshman face, but familiar faces as they walk through the hallways, because they're not always in kind of freshman land or freshman area. They do spend a lot of time walking around the building and talking to others. So it was nice that they got to meet a few extra people before they came into school.
Hi, I'm Mr. Galli. I'm the math teacher at Bolton High School for Algebra 1 and Geometry. Anyways, so we created a Maselli money competition, and Maselli money, it was based on our principal's name right there. What we want to do with our competition is we want to reward positive behavior and academic success. When we were creating our freshman orientation, one thing that we decided to do with the entire freshman team was create a list of characteristics that would help our freshmen succeed, both academically and through behavior stuff. And we look for both aspects when rewarding students with Maselli money. At least for me, when I've rewarded some students, that might be for like a great test grade or thinking about a question outside of the box, but as well as like treating other peers in a kind manner and everything. On the right-hand side of your screen, we have a Team 25 Cup. So we have 4 study halls. We have one study hall throughout the day, all through the same period. And within those study halls, each of us have our own group of students. And the team for the study hall that has the most points by the end of each quarter gets a sort of reward. One of our quarters, we did a pizza party. Another one, we made cookies. And Miss Lynch has won both so far, so congratulations to her. Anyways, so yeah, we try to encourage this kind of behavior in academic perseverance and stuff, so that students will be able to have something to look forward to at the end of the quarter. And yeah, so there we go. Let's go to the next slide.
Mrs. Lynch, I think you're muted.
I don't even know if she's muted. It doesn't even look like it.
I don't think your mic is working because you're unmuted. It's just not working.
That's all right. Anyways, so one of our benefits that we have with our freshman team is a thing of a common study hall. We have that during the 5th period of our day. It's called period 8. And it helps us out as teachers, but it also helps out students a lot as well. It helps them catch up on any work they need to across all kinds of teachers. If they have any questions, they can come to us. But they also have opportunities to have whole class activities. Sometimes we might have announcements that go on the year. Sometimes even with Ms. Klepfer, we sometimes have announcements. And she offers some of those skill-based lessons during study hall. It allows students to get the information, and all our freshmen get the information at the same time. Like I said, it definitely helps out our teachers as well. For a lot of us, we sometimes want students to make up their homework or make up some quizzes during that time, and it's a perfect time to do so. And it allows students to make up their work during the school day instead of after school.
You hear me now? Okay. I'm jumping in on marks. We're having technical difficulties. Okay, so for grade 9 English, really quickly, the units to study are the short story unit. We use that just as a basis for like literary terms and get them used to like annotating texts. Then we are going to move on to a memoir study where they're going to have a choice. So it's going to be like a book club kind of setup. And the next unit is civil rights movement through literature. The honor students will read To Kill a Mockingbird. As of right now, the academic students are reading Secret Life of Bees. Then we are moving on to Romeo and Juliet, which they all love, even though they say they'll hate it. And then we end the year with a book club unit with the theme really around like race and racism and marginalized youth. And again, they have an option of a couple books that they can choose. Some skills that we focus are on our annotation, identifying and applying literary terms, written responses. Really, the goal is to get them to be able to write a really strong literary analysis essay by the end of the year, and obviously grammatical accuracy.
For Science 9, our units of study are, we start with our 2 astronomy units, and we learn about the universe and how it began and how they can actually prove it. And we look at the Big Bang, electromagnetic waves, longitudinal waves. We look at star spectra and how you can figure out how a star is made and what it's made of, and on and on. And we connect all of that into how they put it all together and figure out the age of the actual universe. Our second unit, we look at how the motion of an asteroid will change as it approaches Earth. And we look at potential and kinetic energy. We look at Newton's laws of motion, universal gravity, and Kepler's laws of planetary motion. A lot of that they have explored or will explore during middle school, and we go more in depth into it and look at how that impacts not just Earth, but how kind of the whole universe has the same laws that it goes by. Those are our two astronomy units, which are super fun. And then we get into our Earth science units. So we look at the history of the Earth and how the Earth was shaped and how continents move and continental drift and earthquakes and volcanoes and erosion. And we look at it in the form of, those are also topics that they did in middle school, but we look at it in the form of global trends, and kind of all of our Earth science units are looked at on a global impact, and being kind of getting your high schooler to start thinking about what kind of global trends and their global impact, and looking at it not just us here in the US or us here in New England, but kind of how something that happens in somewhere totally different in the world can impact us here in New England. Then we look at how changes in climate occur over time. So again, looking at as global climate trends over centuries, and looking that over kind of the course of the life of the Earth. And then we end with looking at natural resources, and we put it in the spin of water bottles, and how something so small and so simple can actually have a global impact on the world. And it's all about learning how to kind of be a scientist, how to be in a lab setting, and also how to look at it and have kind of those 21st century global skills. The biggest difference between honors and general are honors obviously moves at a quicker pace and goes more in depth in each of the topics, but it also is more heavily math oriented, especially when we do our astronomy units. It goes pretty in depth into math concepts. So that's really the big jump between the two, but they both cover the same topics.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mark Mishricki. I can take my mask off because I'm alone again. Welcome to our open house, and I want to talk to you about my world history class. You can see I have my topics here, and we begin our study of world history with the Renaissance in Europe, and we take that all the way up to almost the 20th century with the unification of Italy and Germany. And I could get into the details about each of those units, but I think that everybody has other plans for the rest of their evening. But what I want to do is kind of explain the rationale behind the way I'm teaching history and the way we teach history at Bolton High School. We are living, as you well know, in an extremely complicated world, and there are constant narratives and sometimes battles being fought over what we know, how we learn it, how we share it. And my goal and our goal as social studies teachers is not to convince your students to think one way or another way, but to think for themselves. And so what that means is I am trying to prepare these young men and women to be the critical thinkers and critical citizens of the future of our democracy. So we do learn the details and the content and the events of all of these time periods, but ultimately, and students are often disappointed to find this out, history is actually a reading and writing class. So the skill that we try to develop is reading primary and secondary sources and analyzing them in order to form our own judgments and our own thoughts. So ultimately, at the end of the day, what your students are going to do is read as many documents as possible in order to interpret the past and try to apply that learning to forming their own knowledge, their own understandings, and their own judgments. So like I said at the beginning, yes, we learn history, but history is just our tool for learning to be independent thinkers and to think for ourselves. And that's why I love teaching it. The other thing I love is the change I made a few years ago to mix honors and academic level history. So we don't separate out our honors students and our academic level students. And in many classes that's necessary and that's very useful. But considering the word social in social studies, I like to teach honors students and academic level students together in the same room. And there's a lot of differences and different reasons somebody might take an honors class, but ultimately my honors students sign up for the additional challenge and the additional independent work. And perhaps that's because they're motivated by grades or excellence or just a passion for history. There's all kinds of reasons. And I like to teach them together because we should be learning in a social environment. That's what the discourse of social studies is all about. And that is ultimately what I think is the best way to learn it. So I will leave you there, but I believe I'll be back in a moment to cover some other aspects of Team 25.
Before I start, Ms. Oval, I copied your information regarding the honors a little bit from it, so thanks for helping me out there. So for math, I teach two different subjects for the freshmen. One is geometry and one is algebra 1. Within those classes, there are levels between them. We have a honors geometry and a general geometry, also geometry foundations, but only the honors geometry is taught for freshman students. The other two classes are taught for 10th graders. With honors geometry, it does go quicker than the other classes for geometry. It is much more proof heavy. Students in academic geometry and foundations geometry, they do not have that many proofs. It's more computation based. For Algebra 1 and Algebra 1 foundations, they still learn about the same content. Algebra 1 foundations goes at a slower pace, and it's more of a condensed material. Algebra 1 foundations covers the bare minimum of Algebra 1 topics, but it's enough for them to proceed to geometry foundations. With Algebra 1, I have two classes of those currently, and they are learning almost all the sections throughout the first 7 or 8 chapters. In those chapters, Algebra 1, their primary units of study involve solving equations and inequalities. Those make up the first 2 chapters. They then learn about functions and then linear functions in the 4th chapter. Currently, students are learning about systems of equations, and soon they will be learning about exponents and polynomials. Anything that students learn after that will just benefit them more for their geometry courses. And that is the progression that they would go into for 10th grade. For honors geometry, students start by learning about geometric reasoning. Those are the proofs that I mentioned earlier. They then apply those proofs to the following 4 other parts of the units of study. So like the parallel and perpendicular lines, triangle congruence, properties of triangles, and similarity. Similarity is probably the end of what we get to in honors geometry. But after that, they should be prepared for Algebra 2 if they choose to go either in academic or honors.
All right, I'm back. I'm getting a little feedback here, so just let me know if the audio is funky. But I'm back to talk about Freshman Study Hall, and if I could just very briefly make a quick plug for this whole Team 26 approach. Mr. Maselli intended to say more about it, I think, but just wanted you to know that this is the first year of the program. It's been in the works for a long time, and having been here at Bolton High School for 14 years and having taught virtually every freshman every one of those 14 years, I can say that this has been the best year for me as a freshman teacher and for my freshman students because of the Team 26 approach. And one thing I want to make clear is it's not a middle school model. It's absolutely not. The students are in the school, in electives, at lunch, at sports, mixed in with all the other upperclassmen throughout the day. What it's done for us as teachers and for your students, though, is it allows for a team approach. And both the teachers are able to collaborate, but students are able to get focused attention and help from teachers. Yes, Mr. Maselli is very shy, so keep that in mind at the end. Take it easy on him. But as I was saying, the students are getting really kind of an education freshman year that really helps them transition to what for the first time for many of them is a really independent high school model of learning. And I think the central part of this, and we all agreed in our meeting today, is freshman study hall. Every day, every freshman has a study hall at the same time. And again, that's not really different from kids in other grades because everybody has a study hall in their schedule, or nearly everybody has a study hall in their schedule. But what that is yes, it's focused study time, but every single core teacher is available during that period to help students. And it doesn't matter if you are the most motivated student trying to get 100 on everything, or you're a struggling student who maybe procrastinates or loses track of things. We're here every day during study hall, helping every single student learn how to navigate high school and be successful. So this is really a unique opportunity that our freshmen have had for the first time since I've been here, and I really see it paying huge dividends in the amount of homework I receive, the understanding of my students, and their performance. And so, just in closing, I really think that the study hall is the #1 tool in helping your students become academically successful freshman year. But I also really passionately believe that Team 26 is a great model that will set any freshman up for success and make the transition to high school much easier. So thank you for listening once again, and I'll pass on the torch.
So I'm Mickey Kleffer, I'm the librarian. Can you guys hear me? My microphone's working? Okay. So the library is open every day before, during, and after school. I'm the certified librarian, and then I also have an assistant here. Students are welcome to come during the day. Usually they come during study hall with permission from their teacher. Throughout the school year with the freshmen, having that E-period study hall, I'm able to teach lessons that to everyone at once. I can, Google Meet into the study halls and teach lessons. At the beginning of the year, I taught them how to write a proper email and how to advocate for themselves, time management, study skills. Around midterm time, we talked about planning ahead and how to study for, 6 or 7 tests that they're going to have all in a week. We do MLA format and, of course, all the research methods and a little bit of digital citizenship. Library resources, we have over 7,000 books, fiction and nonfiction. We have computers, we have printers, we have a color printer, black and white printer, we have a poster printer for students to use. There's multiple online databases that we have available that are all free to the students to use. We have a makerspace. We also offer a book club and a writing center tutoring service that is free to all students. They can sign up with me to attend the writing center where they can be tutored by a peer on how to improve their writing. And that's pretty much it. That's the library.
Hi guys, I am Mrs. Destiny. I am the school counselor. I work with the 9th and 10th graders currently at the high school. I meet with students individually and in groups. So I've done a group lesson with all the 9th graders where we reviewed all of the graduation requirements, which is really important for the 9th graders to learn because it helps them know what classes they need to take. And then we started doing stuff on Naviance. for Naviance, the freshmen this year completed the Strength Explorer. If they had already completed that in 8th grade, then they looked at the career cluster and the career interest profiler. So all of that is stored in Naviance, which is just an online platform that they're going to use all 4 years here at Bolton High School. And it just helps them build a nice portfolio that they'll have at the end, so they can use it for colleges and have all the information in one spot. And it's just really important for them to start getting into Naviance a lot, because once you are a senior and you're applying to colleges, or if you're looking for jobs, you can do resumes in it as well, but it's your platform you're going to use to apply to all your colleges. So I like to get them acclimated to it and see what Naviance has to offer. And we'll be looking at 10th grade classes pretty soon. So I'm going to be going back into the classes, and we're going to review that Strength Explorer so they can see what strengths they had and what classes might be of interest to them based on those strengths. And I'm going to review the graduation requirements again, because it's never too often to review that, as there's a lot of specific classes that they need to take. So I like to review that with them before we start the request process, where they'll put into PowerSchool the request that they want. So that's just something when they become 9th graders here, we use PowerSchool to go and put in their requests. So your students won't do that going into 9th grade, but we'll do it when they are in 9th grade. So it's just a nice thing to know that I will meet with all students individually about their requests and what classes they want to take going forward. So here are the world language that we offer at Bolton High School. I know at BCS, they only have Spanish. So some kids can go into Spanish 1 again, or they can go up to Spanish 2, starting in 9th grade. And then if you do start in Spanish 1, though, the highest level you'll get to is Spanish 4 honors. You will not be able to take the AP Spanish. Whereas if you start in Spanish 2, you can take AP Spanish your senior year. So that's just the track for the Spanish on the bottom. French, you can start in French 1 and take all the way up to French 4 honors. For Latin, there's a little bit of descriptions of what each course has to offer, but since Latin isn't offered at BCS or in Columbia, you guys can take Latin 1, which just is an introduction and it's focused on classical studies, and you can go all the way up to Latin 4 honors, or you can take Latin 4 AP. So there are some AP options for those classes as well.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie DeRosiers. Can y'all hear me? Excellent. I am the band director here at Bolton High School, and I also serve as the academic leader for our arts and music department. So I cover everything K-12. I wanted to take a minute to talk to you about our visual and performing arts options here at Bolton High School. I'm really proud to say that they are a large part of our culture here, and our courses serve students in grades 9 through 12 in a supportive and welcoming way. Most of our students are also involved in athletics and or other activities, and we really love that here, that our students are doing more than just one thing, and they're taking that creativity and those critical thinking skills that we really foster here in the arts and applying them everywhere to increase their success. I wanted to talk to you about the classes that are available for freshmen specifically. We have more classes. These are just the ones that are available to freshmen. In music, freshmen, as for a full year course, which would be your entire elective, could take concert band, where we have a winds class and we have a percussion class as well. They could take concert choir, and they can also take jazz band. Jazz band happens in the evening. And those classes can also be taken for honors credit. Similar to Mr. Mashriki in social studies, our students meet together, but we have options for honors credit. For our music semester classes, students can take Guitar Performance 1 and Guitar Performance 2. We welcome all students with no guitar experience, some or even a lot of guitar experience. We will find a way to incorporate you. And we also offer Music Technology 1 and Music Technology 2. Those are all semester classes, working with guitar, working with the latest equipment that we have in music technology lots of fun. In our visual arts department for grade 9, you could take a full year course called Introduction to Art, which covers a wide variety of topics in art, or you can focus on semester classes where ceramics, photography 1 and photography 2 are available. And lastly, I'd like to say that we have travel opportunities within both the music and the visual arts departments. We have a great time with our students and the community that we build, and we like to travel with them when the world is okay with that. So we're looking forward to that. And we hope that you'll consider joining us. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out afterwards or drop an email, and we'll get right back to you. Thank you so much.
All right. Can everyone hear me? All right. Good evening, parents. My name is Christopher Jones. I'm the Career and Tech Ed Department Leader. The CT department includes Family and Consumer Sciences, Business, and Tech Ed. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the offerings specifically for 9th graders. So for Family and Consumer Sciences, we offer an intro culinary course, which kind of gets students into the mold and learning the basics about culinary. We go through safety sanitation. We look at knife skills. We look at accurate measuring. And we go through and teach the students a number of different cooking techniques, such as baking, sauteing, pan frying, etc. Second semester, so this is a semester course. Second semester morphs into food for life, and we try and take that food preparation to the next level, and we start to get students thinking about putting together and combining meals. So we're looking at different and specific dietary needs and how to prepare meals for specific populations. In the early childhood realm, we offer 2 semester courses. We offer a child development and a parenting, and those courses are pretty much designed to provide students the skills to work with and understand young children. And moving on to, and actually these are some labs that I pulled in, and again, these are 9th and 10th graders. This is a General Tso's chicken lab. We also did the General Tso's chicken with fried rice. We have a cupcake, kind of an aerial view of a cupcake lab that we did. And lastly, on the far right, students were able to do some amazing cheesecakes as well. For business, again, in 9th and 10th grade, we offer accounting, computer applications, entrepreneurship, and marketing. Accounting is full year, and students will learn accounting by recording business transactions and preparing financial reports. And I know in speaking and watching Mrs. Teitelbaum, she really focuses on industry standard, and she does an excellent job. Computer applications, as we know, technology is not going away, and the goal in that class is to be able to strengthen computer and analytical skills, and they look at the Microsoft Office suite, PowerPoint, and certainly the Google suite as well. Entrepreneurship is more of getting students in terms of thinking about owning a successful business. And last but not least, marketing, basically learning how to sell and promote a product. And moving on, and our last department within the Career and Tech Ed is Tech Ed. And there's a plethora of classes to choose from for freshmen, which includes construction and structures, introduction to architecture and construction, CAD or computer-aided design and engineering, video production and multimedia, desktop publishing and graphic design, robotics and engineering. And just briefly, with the robotics, the students are building robots, of course, and they actually get involved in different competitions. I know that they just had a competition this past weekend, and the students really enjoy that opportunity to be able to compete against other schools. And again, I thank you for your time this evening. If you have any questions at all, I would be glad to answer them. Shoot me an email at cjones@boltonct.org, and I'd be glad to tell you all about our programs in more detail. Again, thank you for your time.
That was the end of our presentation. We will happily turn it over to Mr. Maselli, who would be happy to entertain you and answer any of your questions. Thank you guys for your time.
I don't know about how entertaining I'll be.
You're always entertaining. Yeah. Come on.
So yes, as I mentioned at the top of this, some of our grade 9 faculty have to scoot off for parent-teacher conferences. Some of them may be lingering for a little bit. So a couple more tidbits. As Mark mentioned, this has been a big deal for us, right? So we've been talking about creating this kind of team environment for grade 9 for several years. It was one of those things we wanted to do right, so we didn't rush to it. It was a matter of getting a lot of resources in line and rearranging parts of the building to make this happen. So what does it look like? So all of the grade 9 teachers have this group of teachers, which means they meet, they talk about students, they work to support each other. So if Mrs. Lynch has a student in study hall, she knows that maybe that student really should be going and spending a few minutes with Mr. Galley, right? Didn't do well in the last quiz. Those conversations are happening. The newsletter, which is there's a sample on the Team 26 website, communications, right? So the newsletter, phone calls home, all those kinds of things are at a whole new level with this. The students spend half their day on the grade 9 hallway: math, English, social studies, health and PE happens to be on the same hallway, and study hall. They transition off of the hallway for science because the science lab just happens to be at the far end of the building. As a matter of fact, if you leave English class with Mrs. Lynch, the longest walk possible in the building is leaving Mrs. Lynch's class and going to Mrs. Hobel's science class, right? That's the longest walk. They also transition off the hallway for lunch and for any electives and for world language. So we've put a lot of trust in this group. We've really given them free rein to do lots of different creative things. For example, I know that they took one study hall, brought all the students to the gym for a culminating science activity that included launching pumpkins across the gym, right? So we've put a lot of faith and trust in them. I will tell you how much I trust them. I actually let them create that Maselli money thing. The only caveat was the emoji, the Bitmoji had to be created by my daughter. I didn't quite trust Mr. Mashricky quite enough on that. Sorry, Mark. There's the moolah. So it really has been going well. We actually did have another meeting today and talk about things. We think that it's not going to feel like another year of middle school. But when we started the conversation 2-3 years ago, the goal was, what can we do differently and creatively within the confines of what we have for resources, or resources that we can adjust, to try to enhance the transition to high school. It happened to be this year, on the heels of the pandemic, that we were able to roll this out. That was a happy coincidence. That wasn't the goal. It just happened to be when we were able to do it. Please visit the Team 26 website. If you didn't find that link someplace, it's boltonhigh.com/team26. There's a tour video. For friends that didn't make it here tonight, I'm going to post the recording of this meeting there as well. There's the samples of the newsletters. There's samples of other presentations we've done. There's lots of information guidance, what a schedule might look like for a freshman student at Bolton High. If the world allows, we will have another 8th grade event at some point this year in person. We like to get folks in the building. Can't count on that. But certainly if you are not familiar with the high school and you would like some kind of personal tour, that can be arranged outside of the school day with one of us. If you are a center school family, we have your email address. That's how you got invited. If you are a Columbia family, please drop me an email so I have your email address. So any further information we send out about 8th grade or any other events, I can email you directly to make sure you get that information in a timely way. So please make sure that you email me if you don't live in Bolton. The scheduling, Mrs. Destiny mentioned that. Just kind of a little tidbit on that. We will be working on that soon, but just in terms of the school day, a typical grade 9 student at Bolton High School has an opportunity for one elective. So I know we heard from Mr. Chris Jones and all 3 of his areas, and we heard from Mrs. DeRosiers on her 2 areas, and world language, right? There's 3 areas. So there's a lot going on, but typically, so students can plan, it would be one elective for their freshman year in most cases. So that's kind of the end of what we have planned formally, but certainly feel free to unmute yourself or drop the question in the chat if that's more convenient for you. And between the librarian and the school counselor, they can answer any questions that you have. That is a very good question. It tends to, so the question is in the chat, typically how many electives in subsequent years? So for students without academic support, it's typically 1 in the freshman year, sometimes 2 in the sophomore year, but junior and senior, it tends to be more like 3, right? So more flexibility as you get to those upper grades, depending on whether you continue world language or not, that kind of plays into it as well. We work on an 8-period schedule. So every student has 8 classes. That would include a study hall. But not all classes meet every day. The schedule, we can certainly talk about that if you wish, but we schedule in terms of 8 periods. You do not have room in your schedule freshman year to take 2 languages. You could pick up a year 1 of a second language, perhaps sophomore, certainly by junior year, but freshman year, you only have room for 1 world language. So far, I know all the answers. This is good. Yes, that is actually linked. If you go to boltonhigh.com/team26, our office manager, I just gave her a promotion. That's a more fun name. Meg Redner in our guidance department has built that website specifically for information for 8th grade families. And I'm pretty sure the program of studies is on there. Mrs. Destiny will make sure if it's not on there, it will be on there tomorrow. No, that would be, Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, or Ms. Johnson. When I said 1 elective, that's beyond the world language for grade 9, right? So it's a world language and another elective.
And remember, all students had PE in grade 9 and 10, so that's the reason why 1 elective, just 1.
Right. After grade 9, after grade 10, physical education classes could be an elective, but all grade 9 students take a combination health PE freshman year, and all 10th grade take the second year. That's a graduation requirement. Yes, I'm sorry, I missed one. There are 25 credits required for graduation. That includes a senior capstone, which isn't a course, it's a project that starts junior year and finishes senior year. Only 1 year of world language is required for graduation. However, we suggest students take at least 2. Some colleges require 2. That'll be part of the conversation you'll have with school counselors. So only 1 year for our per state graduation requirements for high school, right? But many colleges are looking for 2. Good question. I don't think I missed any other ones.
No, just to clarify, you can take your world language and you can take 1 elective in your freshman year.
And by 1 elective, that's 1 full year. So if you choose those semesters, you could have 2 electives. So it's 1 credit, but you could take 2 electives if that's how you want to go.
Mrs. Destiny, when are you going to meet with Grace and start talking about classes for next year? Pretty soon, right?
We probably not until the end of March, maybe April, will we start talking about that.
Middle school Spanish would not count as a high school credit because it wasn't taken in high school. However, if you do well in Spanish 1, then you could start in Spanish 2 here. Colleges want to see, and the graduation requirements require that language be taken in high school to count as the world language credit. We should have some background music or something on while we're waiting to see if other questions pop up. Really tonight we did try to focus on the team aspect, what's really new about Belton High School. Certainly there's lots of information online, especially on that Team 26 website, about some of the other things that you're asking about here. Certainly happy to entertain questions about anything about Bolton High School, not just freshman year at this time. We've got all the time in the world to do that. But don't feel like you have to hang out. If you have other things in your life, we don't have anything else more formal to present, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So we're happy to hang around for questions, but there's nothing else formal that we're going to present. Anybody else? That is a great question. I think that's on the website as well. In the fall, we have both soccer, both men's and women's soccer, men's and women's cross country, and volleyball. In the winter, we have basketball. Oh, I'm sorry. In the fall, we're also part of a co-op for football.
Swimming, maybe a team of one. We have opportunities for teams of one throughout the year as well.
Winter co-op for hockey, as well as basketball, and indoor track. I know indoor track without a track or an indoor, but we do it. And as I said,
there's also a co-op with wrestling, gymnastics.
So students, if they have some interest and experience in those other areas, we work to align with other schools where we can't offer it, either as a co-op or as a team of one. And then spring, baseball, softball, tennis, and outdoor track. What else? Good questions. Long list, Grace. So that I know is on the website. Most important thing to know about clubs is, although there's a couple of dozen that exist, we're really nimble. And if there's a group of students who can find a faculty member to help out, we will start just about any club you wish. Our smallest clubs right now are, there's some online gaming club and a chess club. They both have 5 or 6 students. And our biggest club is actually our donut club, which is a real thing, which over half the school belongs to. And that's actually something we're kind of real proud of, because it brings really most of the school together on Friday mornings once a month. We have some clubs that are aligned with academics. So for example, a Spanish club and a Latin club and the National Honor Society. Our individual classes are very active, and we have a super active student council, but we also have those other more traditional kinds of clubs like the chess, like the gaming, yearbook, help me out.
Robotics.
Robotics. So you have robotics as a class, but for students who are taking it or not taking a class, can also participate in the competitions. We have a Future Business Leaders America Club. We have an Envirothon Science Competition Club. Yep. No, there are note-laid buses at Bolton High School. No, just like the center school, there are no late buses for activities. So the schedule on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays, we run periods 1 through 8, 43 minutes, lunch somewhere snuggled there in the middle. On Wednesdays and Thursdays, we run every other. So Wednesdays, the odd period classes, Thursdays, the even period classes for 80 minutes. So that creates a longer period of time for projects, for labs, for performances, those kinds of things. That also frees up with something else we're really proud of here, what we call a connections block. And I describe connections as advisory on steroids, right? So it does some of those advisory homeroom things like getting information out and checking on kids and helping them get into Power School. But it's also an opportunity. Let's say you missed a quiz in science and you have a soccer game, so you can't stay after. you can actually make up that quiz during the day. Let's say you'd like an opportunity to sit down with Mrs. Lynch and rewrite that essay that you didn't do as well as you wanted to. Again, you don't have to stay after school. You can, but you can also do it during the school day on Wednesdays and Thursdays during connection. So that's how our schedule works. I'm not sure what you mean by that last question. In most areas, the electives, there's some really more for those introductory levels, right? For the freshmen, and then other electives that typically the upperclassmen tend to gravitate towards. So I guess your question is, or maybe your question is, do we have to worry about sophomores and freshmen actually getting electives because the upperclassmen take them? The answer is no. Ms. Johnson is a scheduling whiz, and all of that is taken into account to make sure that students who want to take electives do get to. Not always can you take the exact elective, the exact semester you want to, but we actually do a really nice job with scheduling the needs of everybody and not making the freshmen and sophomores kind of, they don't get fed last. They're all part of the process.
If there was an elective that you were interested in, but you didn't get to take in 9th and 10th grade, then that's fine. You can still take that, like intro to culinary, you could still take in 11th grade if you wanted to, or 12th grade.
Yeah, that's a good point. When those are faculty members who presented electives, those are the electives that the Olins freshmen can take, but they can also be taken by everybody else, right? Because you can't take a construction 2 without a construction 1, for example. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate your time too.